Warren Buffett once said that the best investment you can make is in yourself. But most people hear that sentence like a motivational poster and completely miss what it actually means. They think it means read more books, wake up earlier, drink more water, and maybe learn a new skill someday when life calms down. But life does not calm down. Bills do not politely wait. Inflation does not ask if you are emotionally ready. And your paycheck does not magically grow just because you worked hard last year. That is why the real question is not, how do I become rich one day? The real question is, what can I do right now that makes every dollar in my life work harder than it did yesterday? Because wealth does not usually arrive as one giant life-changing event. It arrives when ordinary people quietly install small income accelerators into their lives, and those accelerators keep working even when they are sleeping, driving, eating dinner, or trying to survive another Monday morning. Now, before we start, let me be very clear. This is not about chasing risky investments, gambling on hot stocks, buying some online guru's secret passive income course, or pretending you can become a millionaire in 30 days from your phone while sitting in sweatpants. Buffett built his fortune through patience, ownership, discipline, and understanding the difference between looking rich and becoming financially powerful. And if you look closely at his life, you notice something very interesting. He was not obsessed with income in the way most people are. He was obsessed with turning income into assets, turning assets into more income, and then letting time do the heavy lifting. That is the part most people skip. They work, they earn, they spend, they recover, and then they repeat the same cycle for 30 years, wondering why their income went up, but their freedom did not. So today, I want to walk through 5 income accelerators that can start changing that pattern. Not because they are flashy, not because they are exciting, but because they are practical, boring, and powerful in exactly the way Buffett tends to respect. The first income accelerator is what I call redirecting dead money. This is the money you already earn, but it leaks out before it ever has a chance to become useful. Think about someone named Mark. Mark makes $72,000 a year, which sounds decent on paper. But every month, he pays for 3 streaming services he barely uses, a gym membership he feels guilty about, a car payment that makes him feel successful but keeps him trapped, food delivery 4 nights a week, and a credit card balance that quietly grows in the background, like mold behind a wall. Mark does not feel poor. He feels busy. He feels normal. He feels like everyone around him is doing the same thing. And that is exactly why it is dangerous. Because dead money does not feel like one big mistake. It feels like comfort, convenience, habit, and tiny monthly charges. But here is the Buffett-style way to look at it. Every dollar that leaves your life without building anything is an employee you fired before it ever had a chance to work for you. If you find $300 a month of dead money and redirect it, that is not just saving $300. That is creating $3,600 a year of financial raw material. And if that money is used to pay off high-interest debt, build emergency savings, or invest consistently, it can become far more valuable than the original amount. This is where most people roll their eyes because cutting waste does not sound like an income accelerator. But it is. Because the easiest income to create is often the income you were already earning but handing away. Buffett did not become wealthy by needing the newest version of everything. He became wealthy by understanding that every dollar had a future value. A dollar spent today is not just a dollar gone. It is the future dollar, the future investment, the future option, and the future piece that disappeared with it. So the first move is brutally simple. Open your last 60 days of bank and credit card statements. Do not judge yourself. Do not create a fantasy budget. Just circle anything that feels like autopilot spending. Subscriptions, fees, impulse purchases, convenience spending, unused services, interest charges, upgrades, and things you bought because you were tired. Then ask one question. Did this dollar make my life better, or did it just disappear? You do not need to become cheap. You need to become intentional. Cheap people obsess over price. Wealth builders obsess over value. That is a completely different mindset. The second income accelerator is capturing the money your employer may already be offering you. This is one of the most ignored wealth moves in America because it hides behind boring HR language. People hear 401k, employer, match, contribution percentage, vesting schedule, and their brain immediately leaves the room. But buried inside that paperwork can be one of the clearest examples of accelerated money you will ever see. If your employer offers a retirement match and you are not using it, that can be like walking past part of your compensation every single paycheck. The exact rules depend on your plan, and for 2026, the IRS lists the employee 401k contribution limit at $24,500, while IRA limits are $7,500 or $8,600 if you are age 50 or older. But forget the big maximums for a second. Most people do not need to start by maxing anything. They need to start by not leaving matching money on the table. Imagine Sarah earns $60,000 and her employer matches 50% of contributions up to 6% of her pay. If Sarah contributes 6%, that is $3,600 a year from her. The employer match could add $1,400. That is not magic. That is compensation she only receives if she participates. And yet millions of people ignore this because the benefit feels too far away. This is where Buffett's mindset matters. Buffett does not think only in terms of today's comfort. He thinks in terms of ownership claims over time. A retirement account is not just an account. It is a machine that can buy pieces of productive businesses, and then those businesses can produce profits, reinvest earnings, and potentially grow over decades. Investor.gov explains compound interest as growth where money can earn returns. And then those returns can generate more returns over time. That is the engine. The employer match is like adding fuel before the engine even starts. But here is the trap. Many people say, I cannot afford to contribute. And sometimes that is true. If you are behind on rent, dealing with food insecurity, or drowning in urgent debt, survival comes first. But many people are not unable to contribute. They are contributing to everything except themselves. They are funding car depreciation, restaurant margins, credit card interest, and companies that designed apps to separate them from their paycheck. Start small. 1%, 2%, enough to begin. Then increase it when you get a raise, a tax refund, or pay off a debt. The goal is not to become perfect overnight. The goal is to make your financial system slightly more automatic than your excuses. The third income accelerator is building what I call a freedom buffer. Most people think emergency savings are boring. Buffett would probably see them differently. A cash reserve is not just money sitting there doing nothing. It is the thing that prevents one bad week from turning into 6 bad months. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau defines an emergency fund as a cash reserve set aside for unplanned expenses or financial emergencies, such as car repairs, home repairs, medical bills, or income loss. Vanguard also notes that over time, many people aim for 3 to 6 months of living expenses for income shocks. But emotionally, an emergency fund is more than that. It is the difference between negotiating and begging. It is the difference between saying no to a bad job and staying because your bank account is empty. It is the difference between a car repair being annoying and a car repair becoming a credit card balance at 24% interest. Let me give you a simple example. 2 people lose the same $1,200 because their car breaks down. Person 1 has no savings. They put it on a credit card, pay interest, feel ashamed, cut back for a few weeks, then slowly fall behind on something else. Person 2 has a $5,000 emergency fund. They hate spending the $200, but they pay it, fix the car, and rebuild the fund. Same problem. Completely different outcome. This is why I call it an income accelerator. Because when you do not have a buffer, your future income is constantly being dragged backward to pay for past emergencies. When you do have a buffer, your future income can move forward. It can invest, it can buy skills, it can fund opportunities, it can take calculated risks. The buffer does not make you rich by itself, but it protects the income accelerators that can. Most people want to skip this because cash feels slow. They want dividends, rental income, side hustles, and stock market returns. But if you build Those things on top of a fragile financial floor. One emergency can force you to sell, borrow, or panic at the worst possible time. Buffett has often emphasized the value of staying rational when others are forced into bad decisions, and cash helps ordinary people do that in their own lives. Your first goal does not need to be 6 months. Start with $500, then $1,000, then 1 month of expenses, then build from there. The point is not the number. The point is to stop living in a financial position where every surprise becomes a crisis. The fourth income accelerator is increasing your earning power through a high-return skill. This is the one people love to talk about, but often avoid doing, because it requires discomfort. Cutting spending is defensive. Investing is patient. But building a skill asks you to become a slightly different version of yourself, and that can feel threatening. Let's say someone named David works in an office making $48,000 a year. He is reliable. He shows up on time. He does what he is told. But 5 years pass, and his income barely moves. He tells himself the company is unfair, and maybe it is, but he also has not made himself meaningfully more valuable in the marketplace. He knows the same tools, handles the same tasks, and avoids the same difficult conversations. Then one day, instead of watching random videos at night, he spends 6 months learning data analysis, sales, automation, bookkeeping, project management, coding basics, copywriting, or another skill that connects directly to business value. Suddenly, he can solve more expensive problems, and people who solve more expensive problems tend to earn more money. This is one of the most Buffett-like income accelerators because it turns the person into the asset. You do not need permission from the stock market to become more useful. You do not need the economy to be perfect to learn a skill. You do not need to already be wealthy to improve your earning power. And the return can be enormous. If a skill helps you earn an extra $500 a month, that is $6,000 a year. If it helps you earn an extra $10,000 a year, that is the equivalent of building a small income machine. But most people never calculate it this way. They see learning as homework, not capital formation. They say, I do not have time. But they have time to recover from under-earning. They have time to stress. They have time to scroll. They have time to complain about prices. And I say that with compassion, because we have all done it. But at some point, you have to ask, is my current income problem really just a money problem? Or is it a value problem? Buffett's advice about investing in yourself matters because that investment cannot be taxed away in the same way, cannot be stolen by a bad market day, and cannot be easily taken from you. Skills travel with you. Reputation travels with you. Communication travels with you. Judgment travels with you. The most powerful version of this is when you combine skills. A person who understands finance is useful. A person who understands finance and communication is more useful. A person who understands finance, communication, and technology becomes even more useful. You do not need to be world-class at everything. You need to become unusually valuable at a combination of things that the market rewards. The fifth income accelerator is buying productive assets before you buy status. This is the heart of the whole message. Most people increase their income and immediately upgrade their lifestyle. New phone, nicer car, bigger apartment, better. Trips, more expensive restaurants, better clothes, better image. And none of these things are evil. Life is meant to be enjoyed. But if every raise becomes a lifestyle upgrade, your income rises while your freedom stays flat. Buffett did not build wealth by converting income into status. He converted income into ownership. That is the big difference. A status purchase says, look what I can afford. A productive asset says, look what can now pay me, grow for me, or reduce my dependence on one paycheck. Productive assets can include broad, diversified investments, retirement accounts, ownership in businesses, useful tools for a side business, education that increases earning power, or even systems that save time and produce income. The SEC's investor.gov describes diversification as spreading money among various investments, so that if one loses money, others may help offset the loss. That matters because buying productive assets does not mean betting your future on one. Exciting idea. Buffett-style wealth is usually not built on excitement. It is built on discipline, margin of safety, and time. Now, this does not mean everyone needs to become a stock picker. In fact, most people probably should not build their financial life around trying to outsmart professionals. But the principle is still powerful. You want your extra income to buy. Claims on future cash flow, not just temporary applause. Imagine two friends both get a $600 monthly raise. One immediately upgrades to a more expensive car. The other keeps the old car and invests or saves that $600. After 1 year, the first friend has a nicer dashboard. The second friend has $7,200 before any growth. After 5 years, the difference can become life-changing. Not because one person is morally better, but because one turned new income into consumption while the other turned it into optionality. This is where people misunderstand sacrifice. They think sacrifice means never enjoying life. But real financial sacrifice means refusing to trade your future freedom for every present temptation. It means saying, I can afford this, but I would rather own something that pays me. And that sentence is one of the quietest signs that someone is becoming financially mature. Here is how these 5 accelerators work together. Redirecting. Dead money creates cash flow. Capturing employer benefits multiplies part of your income. Building a freedom buffer protects you from setbacks. Increasing your skill raises the ceiling. Buying productive assets turns today's income into tomorrow's. Independence. None of these require you to be a genius. None require you to predict the next market crash. None require you to already be rich. But they do require you to stop treating income as something that simply passes through your hands. That is the real shift. Poor financial systems ask, how much can I spend this month? Wealth-building systems ask, how much of this month can I turn into future power? And the answer does not have to be huge. It can start with $50. It can start with 1 subscription canceled, 1% added. To retirement, 1 weekend spent learning a skill, 1 emergency fund transfer, 1 unnecessary upgrade delayed. The mistake is thinking small moves do not matter. Small moves matter when they become permanent. A single snowflake is nothing. A snowstorm changes the road. Buffett's genius was not that he found one magical trick. It was that he respected the math of consistency more than the crowd respected the thrill of speed. And that is what most people need right now. Not another financial fantasy. Not another prediction. Not another reason to wait. They need a system where their income is no longer just income. It becomes a tool, a shield, a seed, a worker, a bridge from the life they are surviving to the life they are quietly building. So here is the challenge. Pick one accelerator today, not all 5. 1. Find $100 of dead money. Check your employer match. Start a small emergency fund. Choose one skill that could raise your income. Redirect one future raise into productive assets instead of lifestyle inflation. Because 1 year from now, you will not remember the small comfort you skipped. But you may feel the difference of having options. And in the end, that is what wealth really is. Not a number that impresses strangers. Not a car that makes neighbors look twice. Not a lifestyle that requires you to keep running forever. Wealth is the ability to breathe, to choose, to wait, to say no, to say yes when the right opportunity appears. And if Warren Buffett's life teaches anything, it is that the people who win financially are not always the loudest, fastest, or flashiest. They are often the ones who quietly turn ordinary income into extraordinary patience, and then let time reveal what discipline was building all along.